Welcome back to TV3 New Day's time now for the big issues. Very good morning going out to all our viewers. We're grateful that you chose to us live on TV3 New Day. I'm sure you want to drop some messages or questions or opinions. Well, you can do so on social media at TV3 Ghana. In actual fact, we're streaming live on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. You get real-time comments while you watch us. And so share the link. Go on there, like the page, share the link, and let everyone know that if they're not by their TV sets, at least once they have their phones, they can still join in the conversation and share their thoughts and opinions on the topic. You can also drop those comments on X and Instagram, hashtag TV3 New Day. And just a reminder that as you're watching us, you can also win some cool cash this morning. Cash out is available to all Telecel and MTN subscribers. Just dial *439#, select option 2, and you're good to go. But don't play just once. Like I always say, increase your chances of winning by playing as many times, in fact, too many times. So by now you should have played like 50 times, 100 times thereabout, just so you can also win. 3 of you will get 1,000 Ghana cedis on the show before it ends. And of course, this morning we're looking at 2 very important topics as well. On the back of what's been trending since the 4th of August, where the president made a statement rejecting the notion that Ghana was founded by one man alone, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. There have been a lot of comments, arguments, facts flying here and there, letters that were written many, many years ago to the British Parliament, etc., indicating that, well, whereas some people agree to what the president is saying, there are many more who reject his notion as well and insist that even though many people contributed towards Ghana's independence, it was one man who led that charge and eventually won independence for us. And so we'll be getting into that conversation also on the back of the fact that former Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Speaker Honorable Michael Quay, has also spoken, and he says that NPP should be credited for the human rights protection in this country and not the Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And so we'll get into that. And also, a very key member of the NPP has been speaking. And in fact, he's advising his own party to admit their mistakes and apologize to Ghanaians if they want to go ahead and break the 8. Will the apology even make any difference at this point, looking that we have only 4 months to elections? We have Elikem Kotoko. He's a deputy national organizer for the NDC. Good morning.
Good
How
morning.
you doing?
Well, I could be better.
Yeah, what's going on?
A lot is not well. I'm sure that you're very much aware of the untold economic hardships that are being brought on us. And if care is not taken till date, we are told it's Russia-Ukraine war, it's COVID-19, it's this and that. Not mismanagement, not the inefficiencies, not corruption. But we have a mate who is spending 8 years to learn to drive, which is new. I have not had a mate learn to drive for 8 years, now saying that even before I can take out betting tax, before I can take out e-levy, unless you vote for me to get into government, when he's already in government.
But he says he's not in charge.
Well, he has always touted himself to have instituted over 30-something policies. So how was he in charge at that time then? The hypocrisy of cherry-picking and the inconsistencies have not helped. But this is Ghana. Ghanaians are equally very attentive and watching. So
we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes.
You never know. Maybe if they apologize, Ghanaians might change their minds. But also joining us in the studio is Nana Yao Sapong. He's a political aide to Alan Chemanting, who is the founder of Movement for Change. Or should I say one of the founders? At this point, that's where...
Movement for Change is that which he founded.
He founded, okay.
Then the Alliance for Revolutionary Change is a partnership.
That's a partnership. Okay, I'm just checking so that we know where to put the apostrophe when we're saying Founders Day. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you very much. You've had a good week so far. I mean, yesterday was a holiday, so...
Of course, but not for somebody who is seeking to help Ghanaians up the economy. Not for somebody who is seeking to take the steer, as they say.
Why were you once a mate too?
We've never been a mate. There is no mate. I mean, that's another history. There is no mate in terms of the presidency. You can't be a mate. The president has a co-driver as a vice president. That is what you are. The Constitution, the C. But of course, between Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we were in Bono East and Bono, and the response was so positive, and it tells that indeed Ghanaians are tired, Ghanaians want to change, Ghanaians want to move forward.
Okay.
With the number of youth that came out to actually welcome Alan Tremontin to the Tichiman market and the Sunyani Wednesday market meant so much that indeed the youth are yearning and that they see him as somebody who is able to come create jobs and come help move the economy forward. And it's been so good. And the weekend has been so marvelous with the new program that we have. You know, the Afrafranto radio online, where Alan is holding programs and actually taking his time to discuss the issues or the great transformational plan.
I'm wondering if he discussed history yesterday as part of it. But let me just introduce my third guest on the show. Dr. Kwame Asante is a senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, and he joins us via Zoom. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning.
Thank
Bella,
you for joining us.
How are you, my sister?
I'm fine, thank you, sir. How about you?
A day.
You did, eh?
Yes,
well, it's good to have you. How was your holiday yesterday? What were you up to?
Very tiring. I was, working against deadlines, and at the end of the day, I was able to submit a few things. But I enjoy work.
Okay.
I enjoy work.
Well, it is well. It is well. For God and country. But also, good morning to our viewers on Facebook. I have Luther King Jr. on there. Good morning to you. To Nelson Yesuto, Kofi Akotia, I agree to your message. Please make sure that we get to 2K. And also to Ababio Maoli, good morning to you. To Nelson again. To Julie Belinda Obrisas, good morning to you all. Good morning. Malcolm, Kofi Avaga, Priscilla Ajiakpo, and also to Atami Jonah and Agongo Roja. Good morning to all of you. And if you also want to join in the conversation, we're streaming live on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. Let's get into our first story for today. And yesterday, I believe that the entire country went to history class just trying to understand exactly what the real history of Ghana is, whether we should, attribute Ghana's independence to a number of people or just to the Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And that was on the back of a statement that was made by the president as we marked the 4th of August as Founders Day. And he said that he rejected completely the notion that Ghana was founded by Kwame Nkrumah alone. Now, when he made that statement, of course, a lot of history scholars came out to dispute that fact. A few of them probably even agreed with the president. But there's even more to this conversation, and it is coming from the former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Mike Okoye. And he says that Ghanaians owe their human rights protection to the NPP and not to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of blessed memory. Let's listen to exactly what he said yesterday as he was addressing some young people at a mentorship program. It was organized by the NPP Council of Elders. Listen to him.
It's brought about this kind of thing. Under Nkrumah, you could be detained almost indefinitely. Why? First of all, PDA allowed your detention for a 1950 law, 58 law, for 5 years. When it got to 64, he amended it and said, after that, you could give me a renewal for another 5 years. Almost indefinite. Nobody likes that today. Nevertheless, they see a hero in the man who perpetrated it against the people of Ghana. It's a contradiction in terms. We must claim it. And we must know that if you love your freedom, you must love the NPP in Ghana today.
Well, the Right Honourable Speaker, Professor Michael Okoye, of course, the former Speaker. But this is what he's saying, that if you love your rights as humans in this country, then you must love the NPP for being the forebearers, more like, of human rights in the country. Elegem, I'll start off with you. I mean, we've moved from now not crediting just Kwame Nkrumah as the founder, but also talking about human rights and how the NPP was the one that restored the rights of Ghanaians in the country.
But first, let me say good morning to Dr. Ntumi, proprietor of Rinse Royal Montessori, and also wish one Ebenezer Tete Shiate a happy birthday. I never took time to listen to what I considered to be nonsense. That is what I considered, what the former speaker said, that a country of ours that has lived all these years, known its history, known who our founder is, known the history even of the NPP itself. And you see, before I come to the substantive matter, do you realize that today we can say it was not just sheer coincidence that Mati Opoku Prempeh, the running mate of Dr. Alhaji Baumia, mentioned that you're Kwame Nkrumah. If you watch what the document, J.B. Danko's letter to also
the British
Parliament, he also said, look, dear Mr. What was the name? Obdam also, I exceedingly regret delay in replying to your 2 letters. That man, Kwame Nkrumah, that was how he referred to Kwame Nkrumah then. Then you have Napo also saying, you're Kwame Nkrumah. And so there has been some deliberate hatred for the man Kwame Nkrumah.
Now, why are you connecting the two? This is a letter that was written many years ago.
This is all within the DNA of the same political party we are talking about. This is the mindset of a certain regime, something they don't wish to change from. So when you have the likes of people, Napo, saying the things he said, then feeling compelled to now come and apologize, do you think you need to take that apology serious? It was just born out of the sheer outcry by the Ghanaian. Now, when the Professor Michael Quay has for some time now been on this tangent, I recall he wrote some book or some time ago trying to rewrite the history of Ghana. I have forgotten the content, but I recall very well the numerous, it was subject for debate at a point in time. And then today, they are again trying to say that, look, we cannot single out Kwame Nkrumah to be the founder of Ghana. When we take the 2016-2020 elections, who won the elections? Is it not Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo? Did he govern alone? Did he campaign alone? Do you ever hear anybody saying that the 2016 election was won by Alhaji Baumia? So this is common knowledge. This is common sense. And if people who have gotten even PhDs and are called professors, it's Professor Michael Quay, right?
Yes, Professor Michael Quay.
And it again lays credence to what that gentleman in Netherlands keeps saying, that his passport, Dutch passport, is valuable compared to the Ghanaian PhD. The NPP has consistently made nonsense of education whenever they have to talk.
Oh.
And that is just the truth.
Hold on to this for me. Dr. Asante has to go into a class, so I just want to pick his thoughts on this very quickly before he leaves us. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Doc. But you've also listened to that tape of Professor Michael Quay, who says that when you look at the history of human rights in this country, it's the NPP that is credited for it. Again, let's go back to history. The Preventive Detention Act, which was passed in 1958. So, of course, for those of you who may not know, so this act was supposed to prevent any sort of dissent during the time when the Osajifo was president. And so any opposition that spoke against him, you'd go into jail for 5 years. And then eventually, we're told that just when he was almost going out of power, he extended the time. So it says initially the Preventive Detention Act provided for a maximum of imprisonment for 5 years without trial. Like all dictators, and this is something I'm reading, Nkrumah considered that to be long enough to silence the opposition and independent dissident voices. As the 5 years approached its end for those initially detained in 58, he realized the nefarious objectives of the act could not be achieved, and so he extended it to, a longer period. And then you read the history books again, and it says that it was the former president, of course, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's father, back in the day, he was a ceremonial president, who contributed towards the 1969 Constitution when it came to human rights. This is probably the reason the professor is saying that if you look at human rights protection in this country, it should be attributed to the NPP. Do you agree to that?
It's a very interesting debate, but let's look at it this way.
Okay.
I admit that Nkrumah was not a saint. He ruled and had problems. There's no doubt about that. PDA and its extension and all the problems it caused. All right. We are very much alive to that. So that can be said about Kwame Nkrumah. Yeah. The But the other bit of it is that Prof also ignored the fact that the NPP today is born out of a certain tradition, which include the NLC, all right? NLC, National Liberation Council, all right? During their tenure, they accused Nkrumah for having detained people without trial, which is wrong, which we condemn. But they also introduced Protective Custody Act, where they also detain the people, release people from Nkrumah's jail, and then detain others. So was it not amount similar to what? Robbing Peter to pay Paul? That tradition is also there. Remember also that they also arrested Boy Moses, put him in a cage, drag him in the street of Accra. Read the literature. Very inhuman treatment given to somebody who was loyal to Nkrumah. Grab him, put him in a cage, drag him on the street of Accra. The history is there. So that is also another dark story of the UP tradition, which we know. We know that. We also know from the NLM days, a lot of, violence that took place and the rest of them. So all the political traditions have had their fair share of the human rights violations of that were committed against people of this country. That should not be shoved under the carpet. That's my professor who taught me politics in Ghana, but I disagree to some extent, some of the things he said, even though I agree to some of the things too. I said, but moving forward, we believe that they should, for sincere and honest discussion of these issues, I believe that they should be able to, come out with the balance sheet, the pluses and the minuses. For me, that will speak volumes of the important discussion that people of this country need to know. You need to talk about the strength of all the regimes and talk about their weaknesses as well. So that at the end of the day, if we want to leave history as a proper guide, people will know what went wrong, what went right. And that, for me, should be the basis of the conversation. But to, make it as if that any other regime was, like the UP regime, was very much good in terms of human rights, I disagree. They had also their flaws. And so was the situation under Nkrumah also. But let us, having said all this, hold on, please. They should not also lose sight on the fact that the U.S. State Human Rights Report on Ghana for the Fourth Republic is abundantly clear about human rights violations that have occurred in all the regimes. And I want the scholars to go in there and look from 1992 up to date, regime by regime, and they will acknowledge human rights, who was without human rights, and who had, human right, bad human right record, and the rest of them. These are abundantly clear, and they are in the literature. And I urge people to go and read, and you will see all the regimes in the Fourth Republic have had their share of the human rights violations one way or another. But
do you think this is probably a comeback from the professor, looking at how, documents and letters have emanated from this conversation about, the late J.B. Dankwa writing letters to Parliament, asking that they do not grant us independence almost immediately and all that. And so he's probably trying to get Ghanaians to understand that as much as you're trying to paint the old NPP regime black, there were some good things that they also did, which is what he's trying to touch on.
Or if that is what he's saying, there's nothing wrong about it, but I want him to put the records straight and set it in context and be able to bring out, as I said, the balance sheet, the pluses, the minuses. Because when you leave some out, we, his students, will also bring them out. And Prof knows that what I'm saying is nothing but the truth.
Do you get a sense that there's a deliberate attempt to distort history to favor the NPP and, of course, their contribution probably towards independence at this point? Do you get that feeling when you listen to what the president has said, you listen to other party members, and, the constant disrespect, more like, of the Osajifo?
The disrespect towards Osajifo, totally wrong. But the history of Ghana remains the history of Ghana. There are aspects of it which is very, very true, and there are aspects people are creating to make a meaning. My great teacher of history, Professor Adufening, tells us that he was quoting for Hugh Trevor Roper. He said, history is how we have arrived here from where we come from. So there is always the two parts. The juicy part, he said, it looks like mango. The juicy part, the pulp, and then the seed. The seed is fact, incontrovertible fact. And there is what the interpretation will add onto the seed. That is the pulp, the juicy pulp. So people get into the pulp and want to create a certain, situation for it to appeal to you so much. But the fact remains what? Fact. So yes, some will controvert the whole political history of this country, but the real history is there for the world to know.
All right.
That yes, Kwame Nkrumah came, ruled, had his challenges, but he lived way beyond his contemporaries.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that.
All right.
We know that the UP tradition also had played their part, all right, but they also had their challenges, and that should be set in context. What the president said about Founders Day and all that, I am in that position because it's not only one person who fought for the independence of this country. If people get it like that, then they got it wrong.
Okay.
Because in 1800s, we had somebody called Kwekwiaka, who was the king in Nzemaland, preventing the British from spreading their tentacles to Nzemaland. He's saying that Nzemaland belonged to Nzemaland people. What was he talking about? He was fighting for independence. You remember, the capital was in Cape Coast, and the head of the place, that's the chief, King Aguri, was wondering why the British will establish a court system, will not give him opportunity to rule his people the way tradition and custom requires. So he made noise that he resisted the British administration. He was grabbed, sent to Sierra Leone. They manhandled him. They brought him back only to come here and die. Up to date, nobody has even honored him. But what was he fighting for? He was fighting for independence. The people of La stood up against a very frivolous tax that were going to be put on them. They resisted. They bombed them, and they still fought against that. That said, we can also talk about the fact that before Nkrumah came into the Ghanaian political scene in the 40s, the struggle for independence has started. There is no doubt that Nkrumah also served as a catalyst, speeding out the processes and all that.
Okay.
But if you put all these two together, you realize that Founders Day cannot be attributed to one person. But if you look at all these things, they all worked towards the attainment of what? Independence. And that also, let me add, that even cocoa politics, which Professor Michael Kwe taught us, politics in Ghana, the fact that the Ashanti stood up against the prices of cocoa, which were very high, and that they were receiving pittance, and for that matter, they resisted and argued that, look, all the resources, including cocoa and so, but the majority of them come from what? Ashanti region, and they don't see why they will not develop Ashanti region and all that. So they protested, wanted to secede and all that. That cocoa politics also became part and parcel for the struggle against independence and the rest of them. So a lot of people contributed. It cannot be Nkrumah alone. So that one, if the president said, I am on that score, I'm with him.
You agree to that, okay.
Saying, undermining Kwame Nkrumah, that one, anybody who undermines the millennium mind, I challenge that person.
So quickly,
way beyond.
Quickly before you go, I know you have to go, but quickly before you go, so does it mean that even if, a different party comes to power, we still have to maintain the 4th of August as Founders Day?
Oh, there are too many holidays. I believe that we must scrap a number of them and begin to turn our backs to the sun and work. And then we'll not go to Burkina Faso and buy tomatoes from a desert, a country that virtually is being taken over by rebels and all that.
Okay, I want to understand your point. So should the 4th of August be scrapped as well?
I am saying that there are too many holidays. I want a regime to come look at them and then leave a few ones that will be memorable to us.
But you're not hitting the nail on the head. I'm asking specifically the 4th of August.
I am saying that I have not wrapped my hand around this issue to know exactly which one should go. But I'm saying that we have one too many, that we need to clear a number of them and get space for what? Productivity. For me, that is. Remember, Nkrumah said that after gaining political independence, we need economic independence.
Okay.
And that means that we need what? Hard work, and then we'll be able to produce what we want to produce.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Going around the world with a cup in our hands.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. He's a senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana. Elikem, sorry to have cut you, but you've heard from him, and he agrees with the president when he says that, let's not attribute the founding of Ghana to just one person.
Well, that is his view, and I agree with him that he's expressed his view anyways. But like I was saying, if we even talk of the 2016 elections, which President Akufo-Addo was the greatest beneficiary, He led that election. He won that election. Is that not what we always say? Why has he never disputed that to say that he never won that elections alone? And it was the MPP that won the elections, and then, or it was Alhaji Bawumia who helped him and all of that. So this is very common English, which everybody should understand. Nobody is disputing the fact that there are other comrades who helped Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah to gain independence and do what we did. But for some people who we know who have been infidels, who were people who did not even believe in independence at the time, who wished that the colonial rule was prolonged so that they continued to benefit and subdue their own people, suddenly now come out to want to pontificate, glorify themselves, excite themselves, and say that their fathers, their mothers, their relations were the very ones who cannot be left out and took active part in gaining independence. And this, you see, this shallow approach to debates makes me wonder if ever I would also want to even acquire a PhD, if the NPP will be the yardstick.
Oh.
So sad to say. So sad to say. Because, for instance, you see, the NLC, through the Protective Custody Act, detained more people than even the PDA.
Yep, you have some facts to back that, because I don't have those numbers.
Well, they did more of that because they felt that after Kwame Nkrumah had left and they tried to release the people that Nkrumah had detained, they also now need to go after all the people. And they did much worse. Are these not the same people who attempted so many assassinations on Nkrumah's lives? And they dare want to talk about democracy and freedom or what? Even today, as we speak, what are we witnessing under this same MPP? Do we truly have even media freedom? Do we have free speech? Are people not living in fear? Have we not had people like Kofi Kumsin, Nyahota Mekolo, and co. all tell us about the character of President Akufo-Addo? Are we not seeing that be happening on a daily basis? And I feel sad that young folks like myself, who are of my age, will sit down to allow Professor Michael Quay to indoctrinate them on the history of this country, and most particularly, just because they want to project their party in a certain limelight.
What's wrong if that's where they want to belong?
Is it sudden that, and you see, how come that when even President Kufuor was president, all these things never showed up, all these things never surfaced? It's only President Akufo-Addo who has become president, and then suddenly the history books have to change. We have to change all manner of things to suit someone who has become a plutocrat. And so when you have a leader who is so much tensed and fixated with power, there's so much saturation in the whole system. They feel that they want to have their way and do all manner of things. The question one is asking is that even under the present dispensation, under the current MPP, are we really enjoying freedom and democracy the way it should be? Isn't it true that almost all the state institutions have been compromised? Must we not now be thinking about how to work to restore their independence, to restore their integrity? Can we say a lot of independence even with our police service? Can we say much of our military? Can we say much of the other state institutions? Have we not had a lot of concerns to raise about how state institutions are being run now? Even if you work there and they trace to see that you write just a single phrase on Facebook that is opposed to them, they take you on. They ask you to proceed on leave. They transfer you somewhere. They are doing all these things, and they dare want to talk about democracy, and they want to rewrite the history of Ghana. They want to be accorded some kind of dignity as what? As the frontiers for Ghana's democracy. I cannot fathom why sane thinking people would even sit for these characters to be indoctrinating them as young men and women.
Nanaya, where do you stand? I mean, of course, you've been a member of the NPP in the past, and so I can just imagine if this probably was or is the ideology of the party. Is that what you'd say?
This is history. This has nothing to do with party, political party. History is history, Bella. You can't change history.
Yeah, but you seem to listen. You listen to party members within the NPP, and you get the same ideologies being propagated out there.
The history of TV3 is the history of TV3. Whether the board changes, whether management changes, history is history.
So what then is the problem? Why are we getting this from the NPP?
The problem is when you have a group of people who wants to put their mentor or their idol above that of others, and they think that we should have everybody worshiping what they believe.
Who's this idol? Is it the president?
And what they want to worship. And so, from my days in Bethel Methodist in Tamale, I have always learned one thing, that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was the one that led the independence of Ghana. But unless otherwise, you didn't learn that one in school.
I mean, we all did. Professor
Michael Quay, I'm not surprised. I don't know why everybody seems surprised. In 2017, am I right? A program that was hosted by Paul Adumotri, that had to do, I think they held it with IEA, something. That was the first time I heard him trying to rewrite the history of Ghana. And the whole of the country rose up against him. Nobody, I don't think anyone would ever challenge Professor Michael Quay on his credentials when it comes to academia, the history. He's taught a lot of people, a lot. Most of our doctors who are teaching in universities today are all students of Professor Michael Quay. And I do not think that he has forgotten himself, that what he taught yesterday is still relevant today. And he cannot take those words, he can't take that knowledge out of the minds of his students. Unless otherwise he comes to tell us that the history he learned and that which he taught is wrong. If not, I think that what we should be doing is rather debating on the economic freedom of this country. That is what is most important. I agree with the historians. Yes, I mean, the history has to do with where we are and how we got here. The lessons we have learned, keeping our heritage, protecting that which we have. But what is most important to the youth of today is how to get jobs. What is most important to the youth today is not to get engineers who would go to the motorway and have concrete patching with quota. They will kind of bit me on quota. I mean, that is what we should be dealing with. I mean, if you read history, you and I would agree that J.B. Dankwa wrote a series of letters, even to the extent that he wanted the head of the Queen on our currency. There are two ways to the coin, two sides of the coin. We have the bitter side, we have the sweet side. Nobody, not even the CPP, can tell us that J.B. Dankwa has not been part of our history. Nobody can tell us that Dr. Busia has not been part of our history. But what we are saying is that somebody would have led the team to independence. And that somebody we have always learned is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. J.B. Dankwa at the time, as the doctor you interviewed, the historian you interviewed stated, he and his people felt that Ghana wasn't ready. They felt that, listen, let us go into it gradually. Not that they did not believe that Ghana did not deserve independence, but they felt that we were not ready. We had to go steadily. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and few others also felt that, listen, we cannot do it that way. Independence of a nation, the sovereignty of it, comes with a lot of economic benefits, comes with us controlling our own affairs. And so there is a need for us to grab it now and deal with other matters later. And that was how he came in. And so, Bella, we shouldn't, in my view, with all due respect, we shouldn't waste executive time trying to rewrite history when it cannot be rewritten. Nobody is saying that we are not recognizing the other contributors. Nobody is saying, ever. I don't think I have heard anybody say it. And this is undebatable. I mean, how on earth would you say that we should be thankful to an individual for introducing human rights into our constitution?
Well, he says the party, the NPP.
In 1948, after the First World War, am I right? Rennie Carson, I think when he went to the UN, that was the first human rights declaration. Ghana joined the UN in 59, am I right?
Yes.
The history in Refi.
In the 50s, yes.
And we all know that once you are part of these international bodies, it is there, it's clear. It's, the standards are there.
It was 57, 8th March 1957.
8th March 1957. And so 48 to 57, first declaration of human rights. And then you come to tell me that somebody who then came to the team that wrote or helped in writing the
69
the 69 Constitution was the one that introduced human rights. Atabraka. Indeed, we respect their credentials. Nobody would doubt their competences when it comes to history. But the books are there. We can all read and write.
I mean, there's been an attempt. I remember that, you know, when there was an uproar about lack of textbooks in the schools, eventually, when some of them came, we saw that some parts of the history had been rewritten.
My fear is that they should not go to change the books that are being given to the primary schools and the JHS. Because there have been attempts to do that. And when you see some of these people come out openly to begin to speak like this, then we should be thinking of what they are doing backstage.
Are you speaking from experience because you've been in that party and so you know?
We are speaking from experience where we had LGBTs issues hidden in textbooks and we didn't know. I'm speaking from experience where they attempted somewhere 2017 or 2018 to rewrite the history of this country. That is the experience I'm speaking from. And after I've stated, this history of Ghana has nothing to do with a political party. We have to stay focused. We should spend time to debate on economical freedom and how to pursue economical freedom. We should be looking at creating jobs. We should be looking at improving where our forefathers have left. We should be looking at what we have done after Temamoto Way. We should be looking at how we would create agro-parks, just as stated in the Great Transformational Plan of Alan Chomantin. How we would create agro-parks to increase food security. And not, as the doctor said, go into a desert land to import tomatoes.
Well, the question would then be that should the ruling party even go ahead to apologize, first of all, for the economic hardships that Ghanaians are enduring at the moment, if they really want to continue ruling this country. But before we get into that conversation, Julie Belinda says that we need to rescue this country. Empress Wana says that with the way Nanado is going there, he shouldn't come and change our national anthem, pledge and flag, we beg. Okay, Nelson Yesuto, all we know and learnt in school is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. MPP should go and form their own country and mislead them. Nkrumah lives on. Behi Nab Yimbil says that when I heard President Nana Addo Dankwa talking about the Founders Day initially, I thought he was hosting What Do You Know quiz. Kelvin Iyasho, all my life, what I was taught and what I know is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The rest can go and dance offbeat. Abdul Basit Issa says, we the youth of Ghana know only one founder, and that's the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the Millennium Man. Honorable Chinia, okay, no, I'm not going to read this one. Ababio Mauli, okay, this one says that Obiba Papa Nketia says, Elikem agrees there are more founders of Ghana and not only Nkrumah, yet he wants us to celebrate only him. Double standards at its greatest pinnacle. Elikem, I'll let you respond to that shortly. And it's important to recognize that Ghana's history cannot be manipulated to favor any narrative or individual, especially when it comes to the legacy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. While we acknowledge that the journey to independence was a collective effort, the foundation of Ghana as a nation was undeniably the brainchild of Dr. Nkrumah. He was the visionary leader who championed the cause of independence, and no amount of revisionist history by Michael Kwe or President Akufo-Addo can change that fact. The attempts to rewrite our history to suit a particular agenda will not stand, as the truth about Nkrumah's pivotal role in founding Ghana is well documented and recognized by Ghanaians and the world alike. Just a few WhatsApp messages quickly, and good morning to you, sir. Okay, he says that, good morning, Bella. What is Speaker Kwe saying? Since when did human rights become the gift of anybody? Is he saying that, but for the MPP, we didn't deserve human rights? Did they take part in writing the 92 Constitution? Fake know-it-alls parading as intellectual. Mr. Kakra is someone. Good morning to you, and thank you for your message. What are the forebears of those who overthrew Nkrumah achieve for their descendants to hate him so much? How many of the so-called Big Five did you see on the podium when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was declaring independence for Ghana? The folks in government should concentrate on fixing the economy rather than chasing the ghost of Kwame Nkrumah. That's Chris from Ashalibotre. Let's listen to Honorable Kennedy Ejapong, who yesterday was also speaking at an event, and he has advised the NPP to admit their mistakes and apologize if indeed they want to break the eight and continue to rule this country. Listen to this.
Let's go out there with humility, apologize to Ghanaians, admit your mistakes before you can convince anybody to vote for you. If you ignore the hardships Ghanaians are going through, they will never accept what you are saying. You first have to admit that there are hardships. But then before the time of the Ashia, the movie. Let's give MPP another chance. And I know we've all learned our lessons. We are not going to sit back. We will have Dr. Bawumia, the Vice President, if he's elected. I've been talking to him. We'll share ideas, all the ideas I have, and I was telling Ghanaians during the campaign, I'm not going to keep it to myself because I didn't win. Then I'm not a patriotic state.
All right, well, interesting comments from Honorable Kennedy Ohene Ejapong. He says the NPP should apologize, they should admit their mistakes, because, of course, he wants them to break the eight and continue to rule. But the question is, would that admission and that apology change the minds of Ghanaians if indeed they decided to vote against the NPP? Elike.
Yeah, just a quick one before this. One of your texters said, I said I agreed with the founders. I did say that in every situation, there is always one person who leads the charge, and that is known to be Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And you see, a brief one before we lose sight of some of these. One may even ask, what was the reason? What necessitates the need for the PDA, the Preventive Detention Act? Was it not because there were so many attempts on Kwame Nkrumah's life and the CPP itself, to the extent that Nkrumah himself was even in jail at a point in time? And there were people like even Salifu Dagari who actually took a bullet for Kwame Nkrumah. So when you have the NLC come up with the Protective Custody Act, rather visiting mayhem on people, and Kwame Nkrumah didn't believe in death penalty. If he was that deadly a person and etc., or that dangerous as the NPP would want us to believe today, he would have rather been wishing that death penalty be the way to go. So because he didn't even believe in death penalty, he thought that, look, there's a way to calm this situation, is to make sure that people of this nature who are acting in this way, who are destabilizing the country, need to be put in check.
Without trial.
Yes,
I mean,
look,
we need to admit that.
That is why we need to know that. That is why we need to know that in every human institution, and in every institution after all, it is never perfect. It is never perfect. There are always going to be teething challenges, teething problems, because when even you formulate a policy or you try to implement a policy today, that is why there's a need for you to even review. In fact, you cannot run away from the fact that today, when we go to schools, We still read about the French Revolution and this and that, the Cuban Revolution. But when you talk about even the Ghanaian Revolution, people think that it is about Jerry Rawlings, and therefore they do not want to hear that. That is equally part of our history. Like it or not, you may not even like it today, but a century to come, it will be something of substance that people will be reading and will want to learn lessons from. That is it.
Okay.
Yes. Now, listening to
Kennedy
Ejapon, I just see a walking contradiction of an individual who has already stated from the word go that Alhaji Bawumia was not the best candidate. And indeed, it was not only by his words. Bawumia, apart from being empty himself, but rather wanting to make his opponent look empty, has not been able to demonstrate to Ghanaians his seriousness.
How so?
Don't forget that not long ago, he went to meet the Christian Council or the Christian body and made some comments there, which many thought should be taken serious. And you see, when immediately he says things, his blind loyalists quickly take to social media, take to everywhere, and start to propagate it. And when eventually he was taken on, what did he say? He said he was just sharing a joke. So we have a flag bearer of a party who is a joke. Can he be equated to a clown? Because this is serious business we're talking about.
So he cannot even just for...
This is somebody who says that when he talks, you can't even take him serious. All I know is that he's constantly always nodding his head and dancing offbeat, which has also now become a new style for him. But you see, Kennedy Ejapon cannot help rock the boat because the boat has already been rocked. He is only telling them one truth, that they in the NPP must be bold enough to admit that there are economic hardships. But in their admission of those economic hardships, what are they telling you and myself? It is not our fault. It is not our irresponsibility. It is not our mismanagement. It is not by our corruption. It is not by our inefficiencies or incompetence, but rather it is because of what happened in Russia and Ukraine. It is because of COVID-19. And we are going to other countries, cup in hand, begging them for favors, as if these countries did not witness COVID-19, as if these countries are not even having the impact of the Russian-Ukraine war. So when you hear what Kennedy Ejapon has said, he has spoken one fact anyways. But is the NPP ready and willing to admit that we are in hard times because of our own doing? No, they are not ready, because that would be a blot on the vice president, because he has been the head of the economic management team who has supervised over the worst performance of our currency in history. Do you know that today, as you and I speak, our village folks in the villages are suffering more, because even when they do not have electricity and they need to buy kerosene, kerosene is more expensive. A liter of kerosene sells for about 16 cedis and beyond. More than even V-Power, more than petrol, more than diesel. So where from this untold economic hardship that suddenly has been visited onto us? If you visit our ports, nothing is happening there. The ports have become ghost towns now. Yet the dollar continues to whip the city, because people within the regime have decided to hold funds in their homes, in their rooms, under their beds, bury them in the ground, put it in polytanks. They have become saturated with money to the extent that they do not even have an option of knowing what to do with it. This is the extent of damage that this regime has done to this country. These are the very apostles who said they were very competent and ready to take this country from taxation to production, year of roads. Like my brother said, drive on the motorway. And you ask yourself, which right-thinking, sane human being will put bitumen on concrete roads? So now, even when it rains, it becomes a death trap. I was driving on that motorway stretch about a month ago, in the middle of the night, around 11:54. I had a best tie. So imagine if I was alone and probably there were some robbers by there who actually pounced on me. What will happen? The street lights are not working anyways.
They haven't worked for many years, Elikem.
Yes, they haven't.
So as you say,
we vote a government.
Are you going to admit that your government also failed us to a large extent?
We vote a government to improve situations. Let me tell you, we vote a government to improve situations. What didn't the MPP say about the NDC? What didn't they say about John Mahama? What did they say they were coming to do? They said they were even coming to provide jobs. They were going to transform Ghana in the first 18 months or so. In the first 100 days, Accra will be the cleanest city. What have we done? Corruption has become the only established institution under this regime, and they are happy to even be applauded for that. It has become a free fall. You to go and do what you want to do. Just make sure you are not caught. He found the president may do something to protect you a little bit, but there's a limit to what he can do based on how you are his favorite.
Okay, but would you say that, especially for the motorway, for example, if you're talking about how there were no street lights, that transcends the NPP government?
Let me let you know that under the NDC regime,
during your time where the street lights on along the motorway all through?
Let me give you history. You can go back to the records. The NDC, even before leaving the office, there was a contract to actually fix all the street lights. And the street lights were already even being fixed. They were being fixed.
They were being fixed?
Yes. I can tell you that about 40% or more was even in process before we left office. When this regime came to power, guess what happened?
So about 60% of the motorway was still dark?
Was still dark, yes.
Okay.
You would have to start from somewhere. So one expects that you come and continue.
The NDC had been in power for 8 years.
For 8 years.
So you're saying that within the 8 years, we could only start fixing about 40%?
There are a lot of works a government has. So an attempt to want to fix one and attend to others is very necessary. It is the reason why when even His Excellency John Dramani Mahama decided to build 200 community day SHS, we couldn't finish all though, but over 40-something were at various stages, which they admit themselves. They have promised you Agenda 111. It is just about 4 months to leave in office. How many have they completed? Not even a single one. Not even a single one.
Okay.
So you see, my point is that when they came to power, for instance, in reference to the motorway and the streetlights, they started decommissioning even the streetlights that were already there, because they wanted to re-award the contract. Whether it was there was a time you could even see people climbing the streetlights and removing the lights. You couldn't tell whether they were officially sanctioned to even do that work or they were criminals doing it. But because there was no law and order.
Okay. Well, Julie says that, Bella, that's why Ghanaians voted out the NDC for this government to do better. There's another message. Your name is in Arabic. I cannot read, but he says that's why the NDC was voted out. And so, I mean, for them, of course, if the NDC couldn't achieve it, the NPP promised a lot, came in, and the question is, have they even delivered on the promises that they made? And should they go ahead and apologize for not meeting the demands of Ghanaians like they had promised? Nanaya.
Bella. It's unfortunate that Kotoko, my brother here, the first time we met was in 2007.
Okay.
Yes.
You have history there too.
Yeah, we do.
Don't attempt to rewrite this history.
You can't rewrite it, because one day I would write a book on it. Anytime I see the Electoral Commission and what they are doing, then I remember him.
Okay. So I guess we'll tell that story another day.
So, you know, it's unfortunate that the NDC and the NPP are not taking Ghanaians serious.
How so?
So you would always have the NDC come to say that they did better, when indeed they took over from the NPP President Kufuor's administration, where we had even banks chasing individuals to come take loans. And when an economy gets to that point, it meant that the economy was growing and was being more productive. Then we have the NPP taking over from the NDC now, and the premise that we are going to do better. At the point, $1 was almost a single digit. And we had the best economic, I don't want to say he was a whiskey, and saying that he was going to arrest $1 and put the key in the pocket of the IGP. In fact, the IGP was a bit surprised because he couldn't find the key in his pocket. And so now you would have the $1 almost as 16 cedis. And you would have the NPP bold enough come to sit on air and tell you that if it was the NDC that were in power, $1 would be around 50 cedis. Then you ask yourself, why then did we give you power? Then you would ask the NDC, we give you power, what did you do? in my view, they are just not ready to serve the interest of Ghanaians.
Who exactly?
The NDC and the NPP. There is a need for change in leadership. There is a need for Ghana to refocus. There is a need to reset the button. Now, let me read to you a paragraph from the Great Transformational Plan, very short one, the foreword, which was written by Balfour Dr. Osei Himan Bretu, the Manure Hini of Otumfuo. It says that the lack of continuity in government projects across different administrations has resulted in substantial financial losses to the state. Additionally, the absence of a competitive political environment and the arrogance of power have often led to underperformance by government officials and political appointees. Furthermore, the troubling trend of corruption continues to deepen its roots in Ghana, eroding public trust and hampering our development. In response to these pressing challenges, the movement for change, led by Alan John Kojo emerges as a new political entity with a vision for a redefined political landscape. We ought to be able to redefine our political landscape. The NPP thinks that, hey, it's 8 years, and after 8 years, what happens? The NDC is going to come. And His Excellency John has 4 years when he comes into power. So that is the game they are going to play with us. But if they understand that indeed there is a new entity that has come that is focused on the development and the growth of the economy of this country, then they would set up. If we do not change these two and bring forward a new leadership with a new vision, an impactful and transformational vision, with realistic policy prescriptions to heal the canker Ghana is in now, then we are heading to the doom.
And new leadership is Honorable Alan Chairman T.
That is what it is.
Okay.
A leadership that is looking at a government of national unity that would not take into consideration political party interest. You see, when the leadership of a nation lacks a strategic plan, but is led by its political interest, then you would hear a lot of excuses, like the Russian-Ukraine war, which we don't hear about again, but yet is only heard of in Ghana, like the COVID that has been out of the system for so many years, but we are still taking taxes on them. And that is where you would hear that a vice president comes to stands to tell you that when the fundamentals are weak, your exchange rate would expose you. And some days to come, you come and tell us that he still stands by it, but then there is an explanation to that effect. Bella, it just is a sign, a clear sign of lack of policy direction. It's a clear sign of lack of strategic plan for the nation to grow. We should be looking at growing this economy. Stabilizing the economy, growing it.
Okay.
And ensuring that our economy is more resilient. It is only at this point that we would have a prosperous economy that you and I would be able to stay in this country. Well, in the evenings, do me a favor. This week, with your production team, go to the airport. And then look at the number of young Ghanaians, brains that are well-trained, well-equipped, leaving this country for greener pasture. When you have gone online to witness these prayer networks, you know, Ghana is a Christian religious country.
We start from Alpha Hour 12.
Good. I do prophesy by Emmanuel J.
Okay, what time? That's 11. Oh, okay.
Yes,
so we start at 11?
Yes, we start at 11, and then say, "Make born to prophesy."
Hey.
My dear, if you'd ask 1,000 youth in the church, how many of you have your passports in your bags? Everybody. Why do you think it's so? It is because they do not have trust in the economy. They do not have belief in the leadership. And this trust in the economy, in leadership and the stabilization and growth of our economy, the refocusing, the interest the external forces and investors would have in our economy would only come when there is a change in leadership.
And this leadership, do you think that you've been able to convince Ghanaians? Because constantly, when you talk about change in leadership, anybody who comes on for Movement for Change, you get messages like Belinda's message saying that Alan was part of this failed government. What are you talking about? We are wiser and awake.
Of course.
So do you think that you've been able to convince Ghanaians that even though Alan is a chip of the old block, he has a different agenda altogether?
Alan has never
come and lie to us like we've seen
Alan
with
has
other
never
parties?
denied being part of this government. He was given a ministerial position. He contributed and achieved. The little corner he was given, Bella, in 2020, you and I would agree that every single political campaign message that was pushed by the NPP then, that was coming from the trade and industry. The African Continental Free Trade, which is a testimony to the 6 automobile industries that are currently assembling cars in Ghana out of the automobile development policy, which was done by Alan Tremontin here in Ghana, creating jobs. You and I would agree what Elkem is wearing today, beautiful African wear.
I believe it's GTP. It looks like a GTP fabric.
Maybe an ATL. He won't talk because he'll be promoting Alan Tremontin.
It's GTP.
And all of these, when it comes to industrial transformation, Alan has been so very much consistent since the 4th time when he came, since his days in Empretech
So
Ghana.
his work should speak for itself.
His work is speaking for itself.
Why then are Ghanaians complaining that he's part of this government? And Maniaka is saying, let me just read. Good morning. The butterfly forgets that he evolved from NPP. President Kufuor left a single spine contract for NDC to fulfill. Without where the money is going to be raised like now, leaving the countries in debt for NDC to handle. I mean, I just want you to land on this so I can wrap up. But again, another message has come in. Another person says that if Alan Cash wins as president, who are you going to be? Never mind, you carry on.
You know, I know where he's...
Yeah, he's talking about how you choose his cabinet and all that. Please land for me so I can go.
But Bella, what we need is a change in leadership. What we need is to get a leader who is not corrupt, who will not be corrupt.
Okay.
A leader with a transformational industrial vision. A leader who would be accountable to Ghanaians. What we see today is a pure exhibition of arrogance of power, where we would have, executive men in leadership, ministers, who are in power and are supposed to actually be defending Ghanaians and protecting the public purse.
Okay.
Rather telling us that a document like Ijapadia is just a mere fiction.
All right.
When consistently...
We have to go. We have to go, unfortunately. We have to go. Kennedy Ejapong in September last year said Dr. Bawumia lost his credibility. Has he gained what he lost? How Honorable Kennedy should stop playing with the hungry and angry youth. This is from Kipo Elijah Bakari, radical youth activist, and that's a message. And the man with the Arabic name says, Alan was part of this mess. He's asking me why I always like to equalize. I don't like to equalize. I'm only asking questions. Of course, if the NDC is calling for accountability, we must also question them because they've been in power before. Were they able to achieve all the promises that they made to Ghanaians? It's only fair that we ask them. And so don't get upset when we're asking some of these questions. It is our job. Fix the economy and stop this NPP. Neo Dignia Tukwe. And Bella, tell him Alan is part of this government. Take it away when you die. That's your name. Well, you can say he was part. Now he says he's not part of this government. I'm so sorry, gentlemen, but we have to wrap up at this point. I'm speaking to Nana Yao Sapo. He's a political aide to Alan Chemating. And also, Eli Kem Kotoko is the Deputy National Organizer for the NDC. Earlier, we had Professor Asa Asante, Dr. Kwame Asa Asante, pardon me, Senior Political Science Lecturer at the University of Ghana, also join us. And I hope you enjoy the conversation. Let me just tell you about this. Step into the world of Dewa 539 for your chance to win big with Dewa Direct and Dewa Chop Money. With Dewa Direct, dial star 446 hash, pick 1 to 39 and win 20 times, 40 times or 400 times your stake. And win cash every evening at 7 p.m. and on Sundays at 6 p.m. Early birds love Dewa Chop Money. At 10 a.m., just dial star 446 hash, choose 1 to 39 and win 20 times, 40 times or 400 times your stake. Play at dewa-nla.com or dial star 446 hash. If you need help, call them now 055-625-9249 or 053-2479-879. Dewa Afa. Remember to play cash out as well. 3 of you will get 1,000 Ghana cedis each on the show before it ends. Just dial star 439 hash and select option 2, but you must be an MTN subscriber or an Airtel subscriber. Nashok will be coming your way with Community Manifesto this morning from the Tema Central Community, precisely the Community 9 Market. So if you are around that area, make your way to the Community 9 Market and let your voice be heard. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We'll be back with more. We have sports coming up shortly. Don't go anywhere.
Let's more money promo. What's up, you 1 million?
Baba, 1 million.
Hey!
Nana, then a mayor menyesika bebre.
No, champagne.
Osumde, Sanka, Pito, Nation.
I don't tell me that they get how come for. What tell me?
Fino, tell us some more money. Some more. Open the 1 million Ghana cedi.
Everyone is trying to win millions in the Telecel More Money promo. Win daily and weekly when you reload your mobile and broadband bundles. You can win up to 30,000 Ghana cedis weekly or the 1 million Ghana cedi grand prize. The more you reload, the better your chances of winning in Telecel More Money promo.
Dial star 500 hash. Play up.
For free.
91 million.
Telecel Connected Energies. This promo is regulated by the NLA on the Curtis Lottery platform.
Use precedent to fight.
It's going to be the most extraordinarily emotional moment.
She certainly has everyone's attention.
She's made a slow start here.
She came out ready to go.
She's got the world record and she has the world too.
This Olympics, we're celebrating the gold in all of us. Stay connected to GoTV to watch our athletes go for gold in the Paris 2024 Olympics. Only on Supersport. GoTV. Love it.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Who will be careful Endpoint one?
Chesena me ankasa me period na se problems wom ntina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chesena nya asem ketewa na me kwan point no mo hwe me modam no mo hwe bibia na so mo medro a me fire no ene ma won kra mienu kofro kwa na mkwan mu a eba
and everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko Endpoint o mama no nura ene ne ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's Endpoint for you. Of Acrobato. Hello. Hey, Oshisho what? Okay, if we are with the Endpoint, what does it? I'm a choir. Me just say my name for you. A person my name and imagine a Let me for you. Let me Endpoint is my secret. Endpoint for no particular. I'm free.
picture this. Let me yeah, and now you were back in Greece. To say, why you pick up millionaire? Yes, the luckiest at the room. To say, about from Massa, man. Yeah.